This is Straight No Chaser Talk Radio. We're just getting started. Straight No Chaser Talk Radio.
He's drinking that with no chaser.
Welcome to Straight No Chaser. So grab a glass and join your hosts, your girl Ann BZ, Thin Bad, and the Chief. Welcome to Straight No Chaser. It's the Chief. And tonight, Thin Bad and Ambeezy won't be joining us. But of course, we're still going to keep the show going. And you know, on Straight No Chaser, we never dilute the issues. We only serve the hard stuff. The opioid crisis. The opioid crisis is now in full effect. Opioids, when used properly for medicinal purposes, they can be used for pain relief, curing diarrhea, and cough suppression, among a host of other miracle cures, if you will. However, when it's used improperly, they create euphoric effects and are extremely addictive, and unfortunately, they are deadly. As a result of that, the Congress has responded with the Opioid Response Act, and that's the latest response to what many are seeing as a nationwide crisis. And of course, in the Opioid Response Act, it includes criminal sanctions and provisions for treatment. The opioid crisis is, as I said, is nationwide, and it's very frustrating, and it's very deadly. To help us sort it out tonight is Professor Arnold Atkins. Professor Atkins is a 25-year retired DEA veteran, and that, for those of you that are alphanumerically pure, the DEA stands for the Drug Enforcement Administration. And he is now a professor at the Homeland Security and Criminal Justice Institute at the Anne Arundel Community College in Arnold, Maryland. And so without any further ado, we'd like to welcome Professor Atkins to the show. Welcome, Professor Atkins.
How you doing? Good evening. Happy holidays to all you guys.
It's happy holidays to you as well, sir. And you'll have to excuse, I got a little tongue-tied there. I don't know why my mouth won't say the word Atkins, but we're going to move forward anyway. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm fine. Feeling fantastic in Maryland. How are you?
That's good, sir. And I'm sure that it's a nice cold night on the East Coast. Along with
yes, it is.
Along with the cold weather, it's a historic night. Unfortunately, we have now just witnessed the impeachment of the president, which is never a thing to celebrate, regardless of your party affiliation. Would you agree?
Totally. I think it's a bad look and it's a black eye on our country. Whether you agree, whether it was deserved or not, it's still not something that I believe that anybody in this country would want to see happen to us.
Absolutely. So I'm sure there's much more to come, much more analysis, and I'm sure that all the pundits will be jumping up and down on either side of this issue tonight. But we want to talk about opioids because regardless of your party affiliation, opioids are a nasty thing, if you will. And so before we get into that, Professor Atkins, kind of give us a little bit about your background.
I'm born and raised in New Jersey. I came on with the Drug Enforcement Administration in 1987 at the height of the crack issue going on in New York City. I spent 25 years with the Drug Enforcement Administration, worked in several different cities, Baltimore, New York, Virginia. I worked in Philadelphia as well. And I've been doing drug enforcement for over 25 years. And when I taught at the FBI Academy for 4 years, one of the things I was tasked with teaching was a course called drug identification. And it was when I was researching that subject matter, I came to understand the issue of drug addiction, et cetera, and conducting my research, I took on this new look. I established this new opinion and look when it comes to drugs. And I started learning about the neurological system, the effect that drugs have on the brain and the body. And then I just completely had a new opinion and look on this substance abuse problem that we have in the country. And the opioid crisis that we're seeing now is nothing new in terms of drug epidemic or crisis. It's just something new. But in terms of drugs that we're seeing being abused, it's nothing new in the sense that there have been other drugs before and there'll be other drugs in the future. It just so happens that it's with opiates and opioids today. Hopefully that'll wane in the near future, but
Sure.
Unfortunately we'll see something different.
Sure. Well, let's talk basic talk with our audience, and I'm going to assume that everyone doesn't even know what the hell is an opioid. What is it?
Well, an opioid is an umbrella term for drugs that fall in, and I'll try to explain it the best I can. The drug category that opioids fall in is called narcotic analgesics, and narcotic analgesics are drugs that were created to help people sleep while they healed. So
Okay.
when somebody's in a chronic pain or acute pain, they've had surgery, they have a broken arm, a physician a lot of times will prescribe a narcotic analgesic to help that person sleep, because when you sleep, your body slows down, your 10 body functions slow down, which allows you to heal. So
Okay.
the drugs work.
Sure.
They're extremely effective.
Sure.
They're necessary, but like anything else that's good, when people want to take something that's good, they can make it into something bad if that's what their intentions are.
So what is an opioid made of?
Well, an opiate, like once again, is an umbrella term for either opioids or opiates. The federal government is kind of misnamed or given the wrong category to this category of drugs. An opiate is a drug that is derived from opium, the opium
Okay.
poppy, the Papyrus somniferum plant that grows in countries that's indigenous for the Papyrus somniferum plant. So any drug that comes from opium or that uses opium as an active ingredient is actually an opiate. An opioid is technically a man-made narcotic analgesic like methadone or
Okay.
buprenorphine.
Okay.
Okay, so there's two different types of drugs.
Okay. So as we separate the opioid from the opium, just looking at the opioid aspect. So what is it that the companies do when they make an opioid?
You mean an opiate? Well,
Yes.
let's use the term opiate. Let's say, for example, oxycodone, or
Right.
Percocet, or Vicodin.
Okay, yeah, let's use those.
They're creating a drug, once again, that is extremely effective. It works. They're creating it, once again, for people who suffer from acute or chronic pain. Now, originally back in 1995, when Purdue Pharma in Connecticut patented the drug called OxyContin, it was created for people who suffered from moderate to severe pain. It was manufactured for people who suffered from moderate to severe pain. But the company, along with its drug representatives, sold it to physicians and explained it to physicians as a drug that can be used for mild to moderate pain, which is not what the drug was supposed to be used for. It was supposed to be used for people who were in severe pain. Okay. So a lot of physicians, along with getting paid by this company to promote the drug, started prescribing it to people who didn't need it.
Okay.
Whereas another type of drug, maybe not even a central nervous system drug, should have been prescribed instead of OxyContin at the time, because
Sure.
it was just too strong for those people. And when you start taking a drug like that, and I tell my students this, everybody's brain and body is different. Everybody's body is different, and there's no doctor in the world that can tell you that once you start taking oxycodone or Percocet or Vicodin or any drug that falls within that drug category, there is no doctor that can tell you how it's going to affect you, you, the individual. They can use data and they can use statistics, but there's no telling that you take one oxycodone tablet, you could like the drug all the way to the point where you become addicted. I
Sure.
could take it, which I've taken on several occasions because I've had 3 surgeries, and I didn't like the drug. Did it lessen my pain? Yes. Did it make me feel better? Yes. But the grogginess that I suffered as a side effect, I didn't like at all. So you never have to worry about somebody that, like me, abusing the drug recreationally because I just used it for what it was supposed to be used for. But
Sure.
I'm different. There are other people that use it once and they can't stop, but nobody can predict that.
Right. So we've talked a little bit about the medicinal qualities and it's used for surgery and other types of legitimate uses.
There are five medical reasons why narcotics are used.
Okay.
The most common one is for pain.
Right.
Then it's cough. It's also used for diarrhea.
Mm-hmm.
It's used as an anesthetic, like fentanyl, which is a narcotic analgesic. So it's used to anesthetize people. And fifth, it's also used for treatment for people who are already addicted to narcotic analgesics. So like methadone and buprenorphine are narcotic analgesics. Those are man-made narcotic analgesics that are used in treatment to wean people off. Okay.
Gotcha. So how did we get from the legitimate uses to a point where we're now in crisis, according to the federal government and the media and other things of that nature? How did we get to this point, Professor Adkins?
Well, once again, I will say that drug abuse a lot of times is a fad. And when certain drugs start to become popular, then other people start to navigate towards them or go towards them. But it's a drug that, unlike street drugs, is controlled by doctors and pharmacists.
Sure.
And at the bottom line is always money, whether it's a doctor or whether it's a street drug dealer. The bottom line is making as much money as you possibly can. I don't care what they tell you. The bottom line is making money. So you have a lot of unscrupulous doctors in different parts of this country that will prescribe the drug to people whether they need it or not. And there's no way to measure pain. If you're a doctor and I come to your office and I say, my arm hurts, there's no machine. There's nothing that can tell you how much my arm really hurts.
Sure.
They'll say, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst, how much does your arm hurt? I can say 10 or I can say 1, but there's no way to know whether I'm telling the truth or not. So the manufacture and the sale, the distribution, and the abuse rates have gotten out of hand because of the money aspect.
Sure. And now, and that's a great point. With that in mind, what are you finding in your research and so forth is the most impacted community with opioid addiction?
The most impacted community. Well, I teach college. I teach in Anne Arundel Community College. I also do adjunct work part-time at Bowie State University. So I have a wide array of different types of students that I can draw from. There's also a lot of research that you can draw from, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
But this particular drug is impacting everybody across the board.
Okay.
Everybody across the board. Everyone. It's not just black. It's not just white. It's impacting everybody across the board.
And what are you finding is the most common type of abuse that your research is revealing?
Mm-hmm. What do you mean the most common type of abuse? What do you mean? Is
it I'm using my buddy's prescription, I'm buying it on the street? What do you find?
Well, it depends on the city. When I worked in Philadelphia for 3 years as a DEA agent, it was the only city I've ever seen where street sales of prescription drugs were just as big as the street sales of, say, like heroin and cocaine.
Wow.
I had never seen anything like it before. But that area of the country, Delaware, Philadelphia, South Jersey, are big hubs for the pharmaceutical industry. You got Temple University right there, which is one of the best countries in the United States. I got a master's degree there in pharmaceutical science. And the pharmaceutical industry, that's the hub of the pharmaceutical industry. So pharmaceutical drugs, whether legal or illegal, are really available in that part of the country. I would go, they would take me around certain parts of the city where you see nothing but prescription drugs being sold on the street. I never saw anything like that before.
Wow.
But in terms of abuse, prescription drugs are very easy to get, and we have to be vigilant in the way we handle them. A lot of people are getting them from people's homes. They're breaking into people's homes to go into the medicine cabinets to steal. They're breaking into older people's homes because they know there's a very good chance they're going to have pain types of medication. They're going to doctors' offices and claiming that they have types of pains that they don't really have. Doctors aren't doing their jobs in ascertaining whether these people are really hurt or not. They're just writing prescriptions. And a doctor who does his due diligence will take the toxicological test. He'll suggest physical